At some point, you start wondering if the problem is you. You look at your life and think, I work hard. I'm responsible. I did what I was supposed to do. So why does everything feel so heavy? Not chaotic. Not desperate. Just stagnant. You're not failing. You're functioning. And that's what makes this feeling hard to explain. Because when nothing is obviously wrong, frustration starts to feel illegitimate. You hesitate to talk about it. You hesitate to question it. You tell yourself you shouldn't complain. But deep down, you know this isn't about motivation. And it's not about discipline. It's about the fact that the game you're playing doesn't scale. You can put in more effort, be more efficient, optimize harder, and still end up in the same place. This video is about why that happens, and why it almost always happens to people who did everything right. You were taught that effort solves everything. If something isn't working, you try harder. If results are slow, you become more disciplined. If life feels tight, you push through. And in many situations, that logic works. Effort helps you pass exams. Effort helps you build a career. Effort helps you stay afloat. But effort is not a strategy. Effort amplifies the system you're inside. If the system scales, effort compounds. If it doesn't, effort just keeps you busy. This is where many competent people get trapped. They respond to stagnation with more effort, longer hours, more certifications, more responsibility, and instead of freedom, they get more weight, more things depending on them, more structure to maintain, less room to move. At some point, you realize you're not progressing. You're just becoming better at sustaining the same level of life. That's not a character flaw. It's what happens when effort is applied to the wrong game. Competent people don't get stuck because they lack ability. They get stuck because they're reliable. When you're reliable, the system learns how to use you. You solve problems. You absorb pressure. You make things work when they shouldn't. And that creates a strange dynamic. The better you are, the more the system depends on you. The more it depends on you, the harder it becomes to step away. You're rewarded with trust, stability, and responsibility, but rarely with leverage. Your income grows, but linearly. Your influence grows, but conditionally. Your freedom grows, if at all, very slowly. And because this path looks like progress on paper, you stay on it longer than you should. You keep thinking the next promotion, the next raise, the next milestone will change the equation. But the equation doesn't change. You're still trading time and energy for outcomes that don't scale. This isn't exploitation in a dramatic sense. It's simply how linear systems work. They need capable people to keep running. And if you never step back to question the structure of the game, you can spend decades playing it perfectly without ever getting ahead. When people start sensing this stagnation, they usually reach for the same explanation. They think the issue is lack of recognition. If I were valued more, if I had more authority, if people finally saw my potential, then things would change. So they invest even more. They become indispensable. They say yes more often. They take on more complexity. And recognition does come. People respect you. They rely on you. They listen to you. But the structure stays the same. You're still inside a system where your upside is capped. Recognition doesn't create leverage. It creates dependence. The system doesn't want you to leave. It wants you to stay exactly where you are, performing well. So the reward for being good at the game is being allowed to keep playing it. This is the moment many people misdiagnose the problem. They think they need more validation, when what they actually need is a different structure. And as long as you're focused on being seen inside the wrong game, you never stop to ask whether that game makes sense at all. At some point, the question has to change. Not, how do I perform better? But, what kind of game am I actually playing? A scalable life is not about intensity. It's about structure. In a scalable game, effort creates momentum. Decisions create optionality. Time works in your favor. In a non-scalable game, effort just maintains the system. More input keeps things running, but nothing compounds. This is why so many competent people feel tired, even when they're doing well. They're pushing against a ceiling they can't see. The goal isn't to escape responsibility. It's to stop confusing responsibility with progress. Clarity starts when you eliminate paths that can't lead where you want to go. Not every opportunity is a step forward. Not every promotion is growth. Not every stable path deserves loyalty. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a clearer map. A way to distinguish between paths that multiply effort and paths that merely absorb it. Once you see that difference, stagnation stops feeling like a personal failure. It starts feeling like a design problem. And design problems have rational solutions. Most people think clarity comes after action. But it's usually the opposite. Clarity comes when you stop lying to yourself about the game you're in. When you admit that working harder inside a structure that doesn't scale will never create the life you're imagining. This doesn't mean drastic moves. It doesn't mean rebellion. It means mental organization. Separating effort from progress. Separating responsibility from direction. Separating what feels safe from what actually leads somewhere. This channel exists for that exact reason. Not to give you answers. Not to sell you shortcuts. But to help you see the game clearly. And once you see it clearly, you stop wasting years trying to win something that was never designed to reward you. If this felt uncomfortably familiar, subscribe, because clarity is slow, quiet, and rational. And it's usually the first thing people skip.